Welcome into the Inside Scoop. We are live from Nashville, Tennessee. Today's Wednesday, November 20th, and I'm your host, Josh Newberg. It's been a wild week of recruiting. We're only 2 weeks from National Signing Day, or at least the early signing period, which has essentially become signing day. And today, we got some big news to talk about. We're talking Bama flipped a big one from Michigan, Ivan Taylor. We're going to talk about it. 5-star Jamie French, he's coming off that visit to UF. We got insiders for both UF and Texas, and we'll talk about it. We got a few big flips trending in the direction of the Miami Hurricanes. Yep, we're going to talk about it. And Nebraska, they flipped one from Alabama this week. Dawson Merritt, a top 150 recruit from Kansas. We're going to talk about it also. On3 rankings were updated. There's 8 new 5-stars. We'll talk about it with Charles Power, of course. But first, the On3 industry rankings 2 weeks out from the early signing period. Here it is. What do you guys think? We got Bama at number 1. Will they finish number 1? That is the question. And I want you guys to let me know in the comments below. Will Alabama or Ohio State sitting there at 2? Georgia at 3. LSU, Texas, Auburn. My sleeper is Oregon. They're at 7. You got Tennessee, Miami, and Michigan rounding out that top 10. You see it here. USC at 14, Penn State 15, Ole Miss, Nebraska, and South Carolina round out your top 20. All right, as I said, we got a big show, a loaded show, so let's get to it. Let's talk some Texas recruiting. The Horns find themselves locked in a recruiting war with the Florida Gators. Now, a few battles have already been fought. They've gone in the direction of the Longhorns, but right now UF is trying to make another run at a few of these Texas commitments. I got Justin Wells from Inside Texas. We're going to sort through what's fact and what's fiction when it comes to Texas recruiting. But first, Horns fans, do me a favor right now and subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We're here talking Texas Longhorn recruiting all year long, so jump on board, hit subscribe. All right, let's bring in Justin Wells, Inside Texas. As I said, the Longhorns, they are no stranger to battles with UF. Last year was Xavier Filsaime, a big flip at the end of the cycle. DeAndre Robinson, the year before, Jarrett Gibson from Gainesville. They pulled him out of the hometown team. But this year, no surprise, UF and Texas back at it again. Here's the battles that we are looking at down the stretch. We got Jamie French, Myron Charles, Joseph Mbachu, Zealous Hicks. Let's start at the top here with Jamie French. That's the big one. I just got done talking with Keith Niebuhr yesterday about French and everything that went on at Florida. So I wanted to get your opinion on things where, now that the dust is kind of settled on a very emotional night in the Swamp, the Gators going out to and beating LSU with DJ Lagway. It really set up well for the Gators, but Jamie French is back in Jacksonville. He's had a chance to check in with the Texas staff. Justin Wells, what are you hearing on Jamie French?
Yeah, I think there was that after visit buzz that French kind of caught up with, and when I talked to him Sunday night and then again on Monday morning, he laid it out. He really liked what Florida had to offer. DJ Lagway needs weapons. He acknowledged that. He said he could get in there and play early. He's got a teammate that just flipped there from Florida State, Trammell Jones, the quarterback from Mandarin. And he's got some 7-on-7 teammates there as well. I think Vernell Brown and a couple other guys.
Yeah.
So a lot of it made sense. But then Jamie would say, but I just don't know. And that's doubt. And the further away he got from that visit, the more I felt Texas could feel safer. And then we reported this morning that Jamie French will actually be back in Austin this weekend for the Texas-Kentucky game. It's senior night in Austin. It's going to be Texas' final home game for the regular season. And getting French back is huge. Look, Texas absolutely loves this kid. And they were having a fight off Miami there for a stretch. Now they're having a fight off Florida. Getting him back on campus, I think, gives the staff a ton more confidence and reminds French that home is not Florida. Home is actually Austin.
So do you think this is the end of it? I mean, does this visit happen this weekend, and does Jamie French shut it down? We're 2 weeks from signing day. I mean, what's going to happen when he gets back to Florida? Because that's kind of the thing, right? I listened to the podcast you did on Inside Texas, and it comes down to access, right? I mean, the Florida in-state schools, when you're only 2.5 hours away from their home, they just have more access to these guys. But what can Texas do this weekend to ensure that Jamie French doesn't look around and maybe flip to Florida?
beat Kentucky handedly throwing the ball. That always helps.
Winning always helps.
Don't forget, they beat up on Florida with him in the stands 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of a factor as well. Look, Jamie's going to do what's best for him. And if that means catching passes from DJ Lagway or from Arch Manning, that's what he's going to do. I don't think this thing is going to be done. I don't think Florida's going to let up. Now we've heard that they're making a push for Dallas Wilson. Maybe they feel they're not in great footing with Jamie French. Right now, the fact that Florida is keeping Billy Napier and they're going to try to appropriate some of those funds more towards NIL, which makes a lot of sense. We don't know exactly until signing day, but I feel confident with Texas getting French back on campus this weekend. The reason he committed to Texas, he's had the same reason for 9 months.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to play out more than anything. French knows he's got incredible opportunities to play early, play with Arch Manning, and play with one of the best teams in the country, the best record in the SEC right now. And so I don't think it'll be completely over because I don't think Florida's going to let up too much. But just seeing how Florida moves with other receivers and the fact that he's coming back to Texas this weekend, I think it's a little more solid ground than it was on Sunday.
Yeah, definitely with those plans to be in Austin this weekend. I think Texas fans can kind of exhale a little bit when it comes to Jamie French.
Yeah.
But what about defensive lineman Myron Charles? He's from Port Charlotte, Florida, which is about, 3.5, 4 hours from Gainesville. Originally committed to Florida State, flipped to Texas, was on campus in the swamp with Jamie French, with some of these guys. What is Myron Charles saying coming out of this visit?
So this one's similar to French in that a lot of things line up for Florida that would help them out, especially that proximity, playing close to home. He's close to DeAndre Robinson, the freshman defensive lineman at Florida, who was committed to Texas, who flipped to Florida last year. And so there's a little bit more of a sway there than I think people are expecting. Keith Niebuhr reported earlier that Myron Charles is going to be back on campus in Florida this weekend. And I think Texas felt pretty good that he didn't flip on the trip. But now that he's going to make a return trip, I think that's going to – they know they have a fight on their hands. Right. That's where they're at right now. They are battling, honestly, for 3 or 4 other defensive linemen they're trying to flip. There's a lot of cards on the table when it comes to the defensive line and recruiting in this cycle. Myron Charles is a guy that Texas, they're not as confident on him as they are on French, but they know they have a fight on their hands. They know they've built a great rapport with him and his family. But the fact he's going back to Gainesville this weekend should cause some concern for Texas fans, and it will. And that's just going to keep Texas active. They're going to continue to push to keep Myron in this class. They're going to continue to push for 3 or 4 other defensive linemen that could potentially flip. Guys, they want 4. Josiah Sharma is locked in. Those other 3 spots could be up in the air. Joseph Mbachu, which we're about to talk to, is another one that I think kind of feels more Texas right now.
All right, so we got to see what happens with Myron Charles this week in Gainesville. But Joseph Mbachu, this has been a wild recruitment. He was an under-the-radar prospect out of Georgia. Committed to the Florida Gators early, decommits sometime in September-ish, and has been all over the place. He's been out to USC, he's been to Auburn, he's been to Georgia, he's been to Ohio State, he's been to Texas. Started trending to Auburn, follow me here, started trending to Auburn in October. That fell into November, but now after a visit to Florida, Joseph Mbachu's trending to Texas. Explain that to me. Yeah,
so Eric Nalin and myself at Inside Texas, we had caught up with a couple sources close to that recruitment. I was in Georgia a couple weeks ago to go meet this kid. What a fantastic dude. 6'5", 280. If you had some clay, that's the kid you want to mold. Coming out of the Florida visit, Florida didn't feel very confident. And the consistency with Mbachu throughout the last 3 or 4 months, he is that one. He has been on a lot of campuses, including Michigan. He's been to a lot of places. He still has a couple more to go. He wants to go see Tennessee and LSU. He wants to. He's got another trip. I believe he's got USC coming up if he comes through with that one.
I think he's already been out there once too. I'm pretty sure he's been out there once this season.
The consistency is Texas.
Yeah.
Every time this kid, if you talk to any of the staff at Grayson, they'll tell you, it's a different team each week for Joseph. Like you said, this is all new to him. He just put pads on for the first time in the spring. This is all a new process to him. But the consistency, every time he mentions teams, Texas is the one that stands out. Texas is the one that really has his attention. And I know the Horns are big on this kid. They love his upside. They love the fact that they can grow and develop him, kind of like they have the last 3 or 4 years with those defensive linemen that have been stockpiled in the NFL. Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton are going to be the 2 next ones out. And Bachu could be that guy that slides in. So right now, he's still got a couple more visits to take. He's being thorough. His family is being very pragmatic about this approach. But at the end of the day, the consistencies are he has hit all these schools, and Texas is the one he keeps talking about when he leaves.
Yeah, I mean, a defensive lineman, even as raw as Joseph Mbachu is, with that sort of frame and athleticism, can essentially punch his ticket anywhere in the country, and he can do it on his own time. I mean, anybody would take him. We'll see what happens after this weekend. But like you said, more visits on tap. All right. One more name on this list that we want to talk about is safety Zealous Hicks. This kind of flew under the radar. I don't think a lot of people were talking about this, but Texas commitment, safety Zealous Hicks was on campus over the weekend in Gainesville. What does it mean?
Well, he was in Tennessee weekend before last, and then he wound up hitting Florida this last weekend. From what I understand, Texas is not worried here. He's set to enroll in January. He's set to move to Austin in about a month. And so this might be Hicks just enjoying those last remnants of his recruiting process since he reclassified. He missed out on a lot of the whole official visits and really, getting wined and dined. And maybe he's trying to make up for that in some sense. We don't think there's a lot there yet. We're still checking at InsideTexas.com. So come see us and we'll keep you updated. But right now, the sources at Texas feel confident that this kid's going to be in Austin in a month, and that right now he's kind of just enjoying hitting a few more places before real life starts and he becomes a Horn in January.
All right, let's wrap it up with a big one. 5-star offensive tackle, Michael Fasusi. He's from the state of Texas, committed to Oklahoma, but he's expected to be back in Austin. When will this visit be, and what does that mean for Texas? And also, why is there so much controversy around this visit? Inside Scoop listeners, let's talk Prize Picks, because we hit this week. I told you guys what we were playing. We were going to play Carson Beck on his more than passing yards. He hit, and we were going to play Nico Imaliava less than his 182.5 passing yards, and he hit the less than. So we won big money. That's why we love Prize Picks. You guys know how to play Prize Picks. You pick 2 or more players, then select more or less on their stat line. You can submit a lineup in less than 60 seconds. And right now, if you pay $5 to play any bet, win or lose, after that bet, you'll have $50 in your account. That's right. What a promo. Prize Picks is easy, fun. It's a great way to play daily fantasy while you watch your favorite college football team. And let me know how you guys did on your lineups this weekend. I won, but I love to hear about how you guys did. So Prize Picks, the most fun and easy way to make a little money during the college football season. And all you got to do for that promo is go to prizepicks.com/inside scoop. Use promo code inside scoop and you'll receive that guaranteed $50 when you play $5 in lineups. So go to prizepicks.com/inside scoop, promo code inside scoop. That's daily fantasy sports made easy by Prize Picks.
Okay, so with Michael Fasusi, you guys know, unbelievable kid. Really, really, really unbelievable kid. Loves Bill Bedenbaugh, the offensive line coach at OU. Really likes the Sooners. Can go there and play immediately, obviously, as you can tell by their O-line play this year. That was a big factor. But Texas and Texas A&M never relented. They stayed on him constantly. He told me a couple weeks ago, Texas A&M are calling me all the time. I said, buddy, they're going to call you till you sign a piece of paper saying where you're going. They're not going to let up. You're a 5-star offensive tackle. That's the world you're in. Michael hates controversy. Michael hates all this attention. And it's one of those things with him that, yes, he's going to be in Austin this weekend for the Texas-Kentucky. He's expected in Austin this weekend for the Texas-Kentucky game.
Here's where the controversy comes in.
Right, because the fact that news got out so early actually hurts Texas, because that gives Oklahoma, they gave them a whole week to talk him out of this. And Michael's the type of kid that's going to listen to the coaches he's committed to. Mm-hmm. He is a loyal guy. I think he makes it to Austin this weekend. I think he makes it to College Station next weekend for the Texas A&M battle. I still don't have any inkling that he's going to flip. I still think he is solid to Oklahoma right now. People say, well, make it make sense. Well, he's a kid and he kind of knows what he wants. He kind of knows what he wants to do. And so, but that has, like I said, he's a 5-star offensive tackle. they're not going to let up. Texas is still going to push. Texas A&M is still going to push. They're going to push until December 4th. But at the end of the day, I think he probably makes these visits, but I still think it's slim chances that he flips anywhere. I think this kid still winds up at Oklahoma.
It is. It's an exciting time to be following Texas recruiting. So Texas fans, talk to Justin and I. How you feeling about Jamie French? How you feeling about Myron Charles? And what do you think about Michael Fasusi? Is he sticking or flipping? Let us know. Comment section below. Let's talk some Miami Hurricanes recruiting. I know we haven't talked Miami recruiting in a whole week, and that's because the Canes were on a bye, but that didn't stop Mario Cristobal and his staff from recruiting. We got Cane Sport insider Zuby Charles on the show. We're going to go behind the scenes of some of the most important remaining targets on the board for the Miami Hurricanes. But first, Canes fans, do me a favor. Get locked in. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel, the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. So jump on board for me, please. All right, let's bring in Zuby Charles from Cane Sport. Zuby, last week, Miami landed their 23rd commitment, and of course, it was a flip. We're talking edge Hayden Lowe from USC, but they aren't done. Miami trending for a name that's been on the radar for a while, and that's Vero Beach linebacker TJ Alford. Started getting some expert predictions rolling in on the recruiting prediction machine this week for TJ Alford to Miami, but when could this happen?
Yeah, I could see this happening, as early as this week, maybe even this weekend. Miami's really been pushing for TJ Alford, and very similar to that Hayden Lowe flip from USC. Alford's a guy that committed to a Big Ten program, but Miami stayed in the race, got him on campus twice this fall for games, and they're using his ties to South Florida to try to push that as well too. Kind of let him know, hey, you don't have to go all the way up to Ohio to have a successful college career, pretend to go to the pros. You can do that, where you're from, down in South Florida in front of your family. And I feel like the Hurricanes have done a great job of maintaining a healthy relationship with Alford. And I think, very, very soon we'll see him come off that board and flip to the Canes potentially. Like I said earlier, this recruiting cycle, it's a tradition like no other. Miami's flipped a prospect from Ohio State for the past 2 cycles, specifically from the state of Florida. So I think they get it done for a 3rd straight year with TJ Alford.
Mark Fletcher, Jordan Lyle, now TJ Alford. We'll see maybe by the end of the week. Big news for the Canes there. Now, wanted to talk about 5-star wide receiver Dallas Wilson. He showed up in Gainesville over the weekend. It seems like UF might be the team. If anybody's going to flip him from Oregon, it might be UF. Do you get a sense that the Canes are sort of fading here in the Dallas Wilson recruitment?
Yeah, this one was definitely an interesting recruitment right now. Before that big win versus LSU, Dallas Wilson came out and said, hey, Miami and Florida are right in that number 2 spot behind Oregon. And, after that big win against the Tigers, he said, Florida's taken that number 2 spot, to themselves. And he'll be back in Gainesville this upcoming weekend for an OV. So I do think, things got a little bit more difficult for the Canes. That uphill climb, was a little bit harder for those guys. But I'm not counting out, Mario Cristobal and his staff by any means in that recruitment. I think they're going to fight to the 12th hour for Dallas Wilson, a guy that they very, very, very much value in that 2025 class. I think he can be a guy that can make a huge impact for the Canes early on. So right now, I do think, momentum swinging a little bit towards the Gators' way, but I'm not counting out Mario Cristobal and those guys by any means.
All right, 2 more DB flip targets I want to talk about. And these guys we've been talking about throughout the entire cycle, and we knew it would come down to the end for both Ben Hanks, who's committed to UF, and DJ Pickett, LSU. Both DBs highly coveted by this Miami staff. What's the latest on this pair of in-state flip targets?
Yeah, so I'll start with Ben Hanks, another local guy from Miami, Booker T. Washington High School, that the Hurricanes are very, very high on. Slowly but surely have been chipping away at his recruitment. And I do think, they've made some, good room in that recruitment. But, with the Gators retaining that Florida staff with Billy Napier coming back, I do think that had a bit of an impact in things, but I still think Miami's still going to continue to pursue him. And that's going to come down to signing day. And, with DJ Pickett, the number 1 prospect in Florida, Miami's all in, on him. He was supposed to visit Florida last week. It ended up in Georgia. This upcoming weekend, I recently spoke with his father. As of right now, they won't be taking any visits anywhere. They'll be at a family camping trip out of state. So we'll have to see how that goes. But, he also said Miami's making a strong push. Coach Mario Cristobal is leading that charge for the Hurricanes. And I really do think this one comes down to signing day. I think this one comes down to the last hour, to the wire with, LSU, Florida, Georgia, and Miami all making a strong push to try to, flip him from the Tigers. So I think this recruitment's going to be, one of the most interesting, as we get down to that signing day.
Yeah, these in-home visits, Mario and the Loafers, he's going to have some work to do, but it's shaping up to be a great class. Top 10 right now, pushing for top 5. Who else are you keeping a close eye on as we head down to the stretch?
Yeah, the biggest guy left on the board, I think that's uncommitted, is top 100 linebacker Kellen Wiley out of Tampa Armwood High School. This upcoming weekend is going to be taking his official visit down to Miami. He's been down there a few times this season, but kind of this one's the big one. He took an OV to Texas, in the past few weeks, and the Longhorns are really a team to watch. But I do think with Miami getting that last crack, that final swing, I think things could potentially swing their way momentum wise and could get really interesting. Like we talked about earlier on the show, TJ Alford is another flip target at the linebacker position. And, they'd love to add Kellen Wiley to that class to kind of be that cherry on top for that linebacker group.
That'd be a nasty group right there, Kellen Wiley and TJ Alford. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Kellen Wiley's been a really interesting name on Miami's board because they were recruiting him before he had any stars next to his name. Now we're talking about him as a top 100 prospect. It was just a couple months ago, it feels like, that, Kellen Wiley was a name on the radar. Now he's a big-time target. Really exciting time, Azubi. Thanks for dropping by. Canes fans, talk to us. Who is your most important target heading forward, and what do you guys think about DJ Pickett? Let us know. Comment section below. Let's talk some Florida Gator recruiting because the Gators are red hot right now. They just flipped another top recruit from the rival Seminoles, but the Gators, they might not be done yet. I got Keith Niebuhr from Gators Online. We're going to go behind the scenes, a few key recruitments here. We're also going to get intel on 5-star wide receivers Jamie French and Dallas Wilson. Coming off an exciting weekend in the Swamp. Gator fans, do me a favor right now. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We're talking Florida Gator recruiting all year round, so jump on board and hit subscribe. All right, let's bring in Keith Niebuhr. Busy time for Florida recruiting. I want to start with the 5-star wide receivers, Dallas Wilson, Jamie French. You had a chance to speak with both of them in person over the weekend, and I just wanted, what's your opinion on both of these 5-star flip targets?
Yeah, first of all, I'm clutching to my phone because we tried to record earlier and a commitment happened. Like Josh said, Florida's red hot right now. Their recruitments are getting wild. Commitments are happening left and right. But Jamie French, you asked about first?
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
So,
take on French first.
That was a visit that Florida's been working on for a long time. He's been committed to Texas for a while. They never really gave up, never threw in the towel. And Florida was able to get him on campus. And what was significant about that was, for starters, his quarterback at Jacksonville Mandarin, Tramel Jones, decommitted from Florida State last week and then committed to the Florida Gators this weekend. They were on official visits together. They are very close friends. So that gives Florida some hope. Also, there's a belief that proximity to home is potentially going to give Florida a boost at the end. As far as we can tell, Jamie French is a little conflicted right now. I think Texas still feels some bit of confidence in holding on, but Florida certainly believes it's in a better spot than it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, trending in the right direction. Jamie is going to do what's best for him. So while he is close with Tramel Jones, the new Gators quarterback commit, that's going to help Florida, but it may not be enough to get them over those final hurdles. But it's certainly a factor. He's also very good friends with another Florida commit, 4-star receiver Vernell Brown III. All those guys are on the same 7-on-7 team. So Florida is pushing hard here and giving him something to think about. What we don't know is is he going to show up in Gainesville this weekend for the Florida Ole Miss game? If he does, I would say then we're really going to be watching him closely.
Yeah, we're cooking if he shows up for that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Dallas Wilson does plan to show up for that one. A bit of a surprise seeing is how Dallas Wilson said, I'm coming to the game so many times this season, only for Dallas Wilson to not show up at the game, but he did for the LSU victory. So he returns this weekend. This is an official visit this weekend?
It's supposed to be an official visit. And I say everything with Dallas Wilson, Josh, is tentative. He was going to visit Florida last week. Billy Gonzalez, the receivers coach for the Gators, went to his game Friday night. I was there. He told me after the game, I'm absolutely going to Gainesville the next day. Early in the day, we got word he wasn't going to Gainesville. Then he was. Then he wasn't. Then he apparently didn't show up. Then after the game, we found out he did show up. So, Josh, that's kind of Dallas Wilson's recruitment right now in a nutshell. We know that he loves Oregon. He absolutely loves Oregon. There's no question about that. But he's got a big family. And, again, this is another one where proximity from home could be something that gives Florida a potentially significant edge here toward the end. Now, again, he's supposed to officially visit this weekend. The game's at noon. He has a game Friday night in Orlando. He may not get back to Tampa till after midnight, okay? Is he going to want to get up the next day? I mean, there's he's a different kind of dude, and I think that's why people like him. He's an energetic personality, but he kind of beats to his own drummer. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So if Florida gets him back on campus this weekend, I would say that's significant. He's really starting to feel Florida. And both with him and Jamie French, the emergence of DJ Lagway as Florida's starting quarterback is something they're really watching closely. And Josh, I should point this out, getting back to French. I was told that French was really impressed with Lagway's passing in the win over LSU because he was limited and couldn't run. So everybody thinks, well, he's a dual threat guy. Well, Jamie French wanted to see him win with his arm, and he did, not his legs. Didn't run one time in that game. So the Lagway effect is also significant for both these guys. Proximity to home is significant for both these guys. But look, they're committed to outstanding programs and to coaching staffs that certainly know what they're doing. So Florida's got its work cut out. But look, they're swinging, and they're in the ball game with both, Josh.
Yeah. No doubt. And, much like French, I too was impressed with Lagway's performance through the air on Saturday night. So, Keith, I know this isn't easy. It's an uphill climb to flip either 5-star, but having you been around both of them personally, who would you say the Gators are in better shape with after talking with them?
God, can we edit this part out later? I'm kidding. But I think maybe Dallas Wilson. I'm sure whatever I say, it'll be the opposite.
It's just your opinion. And like I said, I don't feel like either of them are on the verge of flipping. I just know that you were around them both, and I just wanted to see what you had to say.
Well, so Dallas Wilson's got a kind of a big family. He's got brothers, sisters, grandparents. And, no matter how much you're getting in NIL, it's a lot of work to get across the country. Does he want to pay for all those people to go see him play? Do they want to travel that far? Josh, sometimes, he's very close with his grandparents. I know a lot of people grandparents age that don't like flying. So, there's all those factors. So at the end of the day, and also I think it's worth pointing out, he's from Tampa, which historically has been a very good city to the Florida Gators. Sure. It just has. So I think there's a lot of things working in Florida's favor. He's very close with the receivers coach who I mentioned earlier, Billy Gonzalez. Florida thinks he can play really early. They think he's physically ready right now. So to me, that would be the one. But again, he loves Oregon. Yeah. He does. If he breaks it off with Oregon, it's going to be a difficult phone call because it's not anything they've done wrong. It would simply be Lagway, close to home, family being able to come to see me, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? You almost feel bad for Oregon if that happens because they've done everything right with this guy.
All right. Now, this is the part of the UF segment where we were going to talk about 2 FSU flip targets, but when we sat down to tape this video, Daniel Pierre-Louis took himself out of this segment by committing to Florida. So we'll just talk about Solomon Thomas right here. And Solomon Thomas was probably the one FSU offensive lineman that we felt heading into the weekend that might not even visit Florida, and that the Gators had more work to do than they did with Daniel Pierre-Louis. But Solomon Thomas shows up to the Swamp for that LSU game. What are you hearing coming out of that?
Yeah, he didn't really want to talk. We're not hearing a ton. I mean, we think Florida, from what we're told, Florida feels like they had a good weekend. Some other guys that are committed to Florida feel like Florida did a good job there. But again, he's not talking. This is going to be a tough recruitment. I mean, he's telling people, look, I know Florida State's struggling, but maybe I can be the guy that helps turn them around. We know LSU's still in the picture. There's some people think that he might be at LSU this weekend.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's a lot of moving parts. Like anybody, Josh, we're talking about this late in the cycle, this, there's a lot of moving parts. And that's why we can't always give definitive answers. In July, it's a lot easier when you're talking about a guy because he's probably getting close to picking a school. But Florida's pushing hard. He likes Billy Napier. Very close with their new quarterback commit, Tramel Jones. He's going to be working on him hard. Vernell Brown's going to be working on him hard. Billy Napier's going to be working on him hard. Now, the other question is, if Florida's going to make a big run at some of these 5-stars, Josh, you got to have the money these days. You got to have the NIL aligned. And that's an element we don't know. I mean, he's going to command a pretty high value, obviously, Solomon Thomas, because
he said it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, he said it. He said, I had a great relationship with Alex Atkins. Nobody else is going to replace that. But now that Atkins is gone from FSU, he said, you better step up to the table, meaning this is going to be a business decision. But on the flip side, that means anybody could get involved with it.
Potentially so. Yeah, absolutely. But I think there's a little bit of growing optimism coming out of Gainesville. I mean, they're working on some other offensive linemen too. Jahari Medlock, the Cincinnati commit.
Yeah.
And another big one. The big one really is Tavares Dice, the other big offensive lineman committee. He's committed to Auburn. I think Florida's making some traction with him too. But Solomon Thomas would sort of be just a huge one for Florida. They got the number 24 class right now. But again, so many things have to be aligned. I just don't know right now where they're at.
Hey, just keep winning. It seems like the one thing that has gotten UF recruiting hot is these wins. So I think if they just keep winning to end the season, I think UF recruiting is going to ride off into the sunset.
Well, he was at the game the other day with his mother and I believe maybe an aunt. And so, again, proximity to home, I mean, that's what's always helped Florida. That's what's always helped Miami. That's what's always helped Georgia. You're right in this in the middle of everything. So I think those could give Florida an assist too. But again, like he said, and I was beating around the bushes, somebody's going to have to come up with a pretty big situation to get him.
That's how it is with all the five-star offensive linemen.
Well,
I mean, it's not a secret.
And that adds an extra layer to all the recruitment. So there's what the kid says. There's what your sources at a particular school tell you. There's what Uncle Fred tells you. There's what Aunt Betsy tells you. There's what the high school coach tells you. But then there's also what the wallet tells you, right?
Yeah, right? We used to always say, follow the visits, right? Follow the visits. It'll lead you. Yeah. Follow the money.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where we're at. But again, if a kid's visiting over and over and he's saying good things about a school, you can then deduce from that that things are being worked out to be able to get that kid, you would think. So
yeah, you're right. There's code words for that, I guess.
I don't have a true feel for him one way or the other. It's going to be interesting to see. I hate when people say that because that's not really – you're not really saying anything. But let's see where he shows up this weekend. That could tell us a lot. Then next weekend, because – this weekend, Florida plays Ole Miss at home. I think LSU maybe plays Vanderbilt at home. FSU plays Charleston Southern. But next weekend, FSU plays Florida. Okay? So, but he's not talking right now. He's a guy that always talked. That tells me, Josh, he's feeling some pressure right now because he's one of the nicest, most courteous young guys in this class, highly intelligent, super student at Jacksonville Range, one of my favorite schools in the entire country to go to. Very popular at the school. I've been there and seen how people gravitate toward him. And he's feeling it right now. If he's not talking, that tells you the weight of a recruitment on a young man's shoulders as you get this late in the cycle. So obviously everybody's pulling for him because he is a really good dude.
All right. So moments ago, Daniel Pierre-Louis off the board. He flips his commitment from FSU to UF. Keith, what if his teammate linebacker Ty Jackson shows up in the swamp this weekend?
Well, they're working on it. They never stopped talking to him. Obviously, he was a Florida lean, we all thought, in August.
And there was a period of time, don't get me wrong, in the spring and summer where you guys were saying Ty Jackson was the most important defensive recruit on the board at the time. Yeah,
don't remind me of that being wrong there. But, but he went to the Florida-Miami game. Not only did they get beat pretty bad, Josh, the atmosphere in the swamp that day wasn't great. Yeah. He goes to Southern Cal, I think either the next week or the week after. I think it was the next week, and committed while he was out there. But Florida never stopped recruiting him. They always believed that they could put together something as the season went on. They thought they were a much better team than they were earlier in the season. Now, again, this is a big-time linebacker. This is another one. It's not going to – you better have your NIL aligned with everything else. But they've been working on him. They wanted him to come last week. But Ty is a family guy, Ty Jackson's a family guy. Josh, excuse me, you're not Jack. And his brother plays for Kaiser University. And they had a game last week down in West Palm Beach, so he went to the game with his family to support his brother. You got to love that. But this week, Florida's hoping they get him on campus, and we'll have to see. I think if he shows up, then that's going to be an eye-opener. But right now, at last check, all we've gotten is a maybe out of that one. All right. Well, it's still early in the week. All eyes are going to be on that Gators Online visit list. It's at 1.0. I saw you guys put a 1.0, so I know that the visit list is still going to grow. You guys go check it out. Hope. But Josh, it's you're not Jack, you're Josh. I can't believe I called you Jack. But the funny thing is, these visitors lists generally do get bigger and bigger and bigger. But this is a noon game. And you know this. You did my job for many years before you moved to a position above me, Josh. A noon game sometimes. Gainesville's 2 hours from a lot of these metro centers. Tallahassee was even further. it was kind of like a lot of times you got a lot of maybes. You got a lot of maybes because kids are like, oh, man, I don't know, man. What time do I have to wake up to get there, to beat traffic? There was a big traffic accident last week on the way to Gainesville that caused some people to get there late, Josh. So it can be tricky. But, yeah, we'll keep updating it throughout the week. We expect there to be more big names. Sure, it's a good marquee game.
And I'll keep checking back. Gator fans, talk to Keith and I. How are we feeling about recruiting? It's finally coming alive right when it matters most. Who is your most important target still left on the board? Let us know. Comment section below. Let's talk some Alabama recruiting because there's been a lot of action with Bama recruiting in the past week. There's been flips, both for Bama and away from Bama. There's been a pair of commits that earned their 5th star this week. It's just been busy. So I got Tim Watts from Bama Online. We're going to go through some of the ups, some of the downs. We're going to cover it all in this video. But first, Bama fans, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button because we're here talking Bama recruiting all year long. So jump on board the On3 Recruits channel. All right, let's bring on Tim Watts from Bama Online. And we'll talk about the good news first here, Tim. Bama, they got a big flip from Ivan Taylor of Michigan, top 150 player overall. So that gets me to thinking, how would Bama like to finish this 2025 DB class?
Yeah, I think they're pretty happy. I mean, Ivan's a guy, third time's the charm. I mean, they lost him first time he committed to Notre Dame. Second time, they've been building that relationship. Colin Hitchler did a great job. Courtney Morgan did a great job of staying on there and working that relationship. And then again, he committed to Michigan the second time. But, when he committed, we thought, pretty close. Alabama's pretty much in that. It was a hard decision for him. So stayed on him, got that flip on Monday. And it was important, just for several reasons. One, he's the first safety in the class. 2, he's an extreme talent. And 3, for Alabama fans, I think the day had saw them drop from 2 in the team rankings to number 5. Yeah. And then getting Ivan committed, moved him back up to number 2. So that made him happy.
Yeah, you got to almost track that in real time with Alabama recruiting right now. So this weekend, there's another flip target on campus at a position of need, wide receiver. We're talking UF commitment, Nashawn Montgomery. First, I want to know, how did the visit go? And it sounded like it went good because he's already planning a return trip.
Yeah, I think the chance, and again, you're coming down to the final stages where coaches are putting feet to the fire, commit or lose your spot. So he's supposed to, I think, go into Louisville possibly, and then possibly coming back for the Iron Bowl for Nashawn Montgomery. Committed to Florida, but Florida's on a hot streak. They did a good job. They obviously want to keep this guy and trying to build on that. But Alabama, the visit overall went well. Alabama's staff does it. First of all, hard to have a bad trip on any official visit at any school. It's pretty – you laid out the red carpet pretty well. But Alabama does a particularly good job. Good visit. The people around him seem to like it. So Alabama's in the mix. How much so I think we're going to see in the upcoming weeks. Whether or not he heads back to the Iron Bowl will be a big sign.
All right. So now I want to talk about Anthony Turbo Rogers. He decommitted. We've been kind of watching this thing. He flips his commitment to Ohio State. So, Tim, how does Bama try and fill that position now?
They have A.K. Deer committed, and really going into this, running back wasn't a massive need. They wanted at least one really good, talented guy. A.K., I think, is one of the best in the country. Probably a little bit underranked for what he brings from a Alabama system. He reminds me a lot of the guys that Burton Burns signed under Nick Saban, a big guy that can run between the tackles and get downhill. So they don't have to have a second running back position. Turbo's a little bit more of a Swiss Army knife. This year he's got 200-something yards rushing, but he's got double that receiving. He's a special teams guy. I had one college coach tell me he could even play a nickel on that next level, so a little bit more of that. So Bama takes another guy. They're probably looking at more of a pure running back. Harry Dalton's a guy that gets mentioned. He's committed to USC from Virginia. And, of course, Chase Chirizio was on campus this week for an official visit. Committed to Michigan State. So a lot of things happening there to see if they're going to take that second running back. Yeah. But they won't take him unless they're really comfortable with who it is.
All right. So now there's also been some smoke around 5-star offensive line commitment Michael Carroll. He's coming off this visit to Boulder. He was at the Colorado Buffs game last weekend. So how's Bama feeling about Carroll's commitment status? And do you also expect him back on campus before the season ends?
The plan was for him to come back to the Iron Bowl. You know how visits come and go. Obviously it's Alabama's last home game of the year will be against Auburn in 2 weekends. So he's expected to be back. His season's over at IMG. So he's able to take some visits about where he stands. I know Colorado's throwing everything at him. He's a heck of a player. big time talent. Alabama's going to fight to keep him. I mean, he's fresh off that visit. Kind of went pretty quiet. We're told it'll be a tough flip, but I think he went home. He's going to discuss things with his parents. The normal recruiting process that you go through. I mean, it's been, and the thing about him is he didn't take a lot of visits. So taking a visit, which he wanted to do, made sense. He had a lot of top schools coming after him. And again, he's a top 10 overall prospect, a monster at the interior tackle. So I don't know if you're ever I don't know when you get comfortable in recruiting now, because even, everybody says once you get them signed, but you got 10 portal windows basically. So everybody can bounce out anyways. But I think Alabama feels okay right now, doing the best they can with him.
All right, Bama fans. Well, how are you guys feeling about some of these commits, some of these flips? Let us know. We got less than 3 weeks till signing day. Talk to us, comment section below. Let's talk some Nebraska recruiting. The Huskers, they got a top 20 recruiting class right now, and there's still a couple spots left to fill. I got Sean Callahan from Husker Online. In this video, we're going to talk about Matt Rhule's top remaining targets. We're only 2 weeks from the early signing period. It's about to get exciting. But first, Nebraska fans, do me a favor right now. Smash that subscribe button. We love talking Nebraska recruiting on this channel, so jump on board. All right, let's bring in Sean Callahan from Husker Online. Sean, we got to go back a couple days. I want to talk about the Dawson Merritt flip from Alabama to Nebraska. How significant was that flip?
Well, it had been a long time coming for Nebraska. They had been working on Dawson, obviously, since the spring or even before the spring. He had made multiple on-campus visits, but then committed to Alabama. But give Matt Rhule credit. They stayed on Dawson. They continued to recruit him and worked him hard over the last several months. Matt Rhule, during Nebraska's October bye week, went out and watched his game, and they continued to keep the ball in play. And then they were eventually able to flip him from Alabama. I also think having Jamar Mosey now on staff, the father of four-star receiver Isaiah Mosey out of Lee Summit North High School, the former head coach of Lee Summit North, Jamar, really played an impact, I think, just with Nebraska's presence down in Kansas City over the last few months.
All right. Now, we talked about Nebraska having a top 20 class, but they're not finished. I mean, Merritt himself said it. He said, I'm not the last to commit. So if we believe what Dawson Merritt says, there's a few big names out here that I want to talk about. Here they are. We got wide receiver Cortez Mills. He's committed to Oklahoma. Of course, five-star athlete Michael Terry, tight end Chase Lofton, committed to FSU. Safety Aiden Manu Tai, committed to Cal. So if Nebraska is going to fill a couple spots, I mean, these are obviously their top targets, but which of these names do you feel like could end up signing with Nebraska?
I mean, all of them, I think, are in play right now for Nebraska, but Cortez Mills really intrigues me because I do think there's more going on there than people realize. He did visit Nebraska during the season for a game as well, and it's been quiet since that point, but obviously there's a lot involved with him in NIL and other things, his commitment to Oklahoma. But even Michael Terry, who Nebraska visited over the bye week as well, along with Cortez Mills. I do think that's one to watch closely. I think Nebraska is in that a lot closer than people realize, Texas being the team to beat right now. But that is one where the Huskers, I think, are a surprise team. Chase Lofton, from Millard South here locally. He visited Nebraska. I know he's looking at some other things, but Nebraska remains in contention there, and they'll probably have coaches at his state championship game here this next week, as Matt Rhule has not been to watch him play yet, and they'll take on Omaha West Side in a huge state championship game here in Class A. Then they were out in Hawaii as well over the bye week. So honestly, all four of these are very much in play. And it wouldn't surprise me to see Nebraska have a chance to get 2, maybe 3 of those 4.
Yeah, that would be huge. Nebraska fans, talk to us, comment section below. Give me a 1, 2, 3, or 4. How many of these targets do you think Nebraska will land? Let us know, comment section below. All right, I'm not done with you yet, Sean. Okay, so we know they're going to be, after some flip targets, they're going to try to be aggressive. But down the stretch, is there anyone Nebraska needs to play defense on that is committed to them right now that other rival teams are trying to flip?
Well, Jeremiah Jones is the big one, the 4-star out of Kentucky. And I think for Nebraska with Jeremiah Jones, getting him back here for the Wisconsin game, and I think that could happen this weekend for Nebraska, which will be a great sign if he is here. But Missouri has not made it easy. They continue to push hard for Jeremiah Jones, who I think is one of their better players in this class. And his ranking rise proves that. They got on him early, and we've seen his stock continue to rise. So that is probably the one of their current commit lists to watch closely.
All right, so as I said, Nebraska's sitting with 20 total commitments right now, 19 in the On3 industry rankings. When it comes down to these final spots, is there a need to fill, or is this just kind of trying to take the best available players still at the end?
Yeah, I don't know if there's an outright need. I think getting Merritt at linebacker was a need. They need football players, they need athletes. And Cortez Mills, Michael Terry, Lofton, all these guys can help Nebraska, but particularly Michael Terry. I mean, he's a guy that I think that can play day one. Cortez Mills can play day one at those particular positions. So those would be probably the two I'd lean at, because you watch Nebraska, they have Dylan Raiola, but they just don't have a lot of playmakers. Everything is very hard for them on offense right now. They need more game-breaking players like Terry, like Mills, that can change games.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Nebraska fans, who's your favorite playmaker still left on the board? Let us know. Comment section below. Sean Callahan from Husker Online. You guys are doing a great job, and it's really exciting as we only got 2 weeks till signing day, so you guys go check it out. Sean, thanks for stopping by the Inside Scoop. New On3 rankings update. There are 8 new 5-stars, so there's a total of 25 as it stands right now. We'll be at 32 by National Signing Day, and I got Director of Scouting and Ranking Charles Power here. We're going to break down all these new developments in the On3 rankings, but first, guys, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. All right, now you can see it. On3's 8 new 5-stars. Whew. We got Alabama getting 2 upgrades in Keelan Russell and Jackson Lloyd. Houston Longstreet, Jerron Key, Sagapulitelli committed to Cal. For how long, we'll see. Wide receiver Quincy Porter, and then a couple offensive linemen get 5-star status, along with LSU cornerback commit Cade Phillips. All right, let's talk about some of these quarterback 5-stars. Now, we did talk Keelan Russell in the last ranking update because he was one of the big movers. Now he's a 5-star. Start with Keelan Russell. What makes him so great?
Yeah, Josh, Keelan Russell has had a fantastic senior season, built on a strong offseason, and he is playing just phenomenal football so far at Powerhouse Duncanville High School. He's thrown for over 3,000 yards, 45 touchdowns, just 1 interception. When you turn on the film, it looks like a jugs machine is throwing to the receivers. He is just taking his game to another level. I think with Keelan Russell as well, improved arm strength, playmaking ability, but also elite pocket presence, Josh. Great against the pass rush, moving around, just making plays at a really high level. We feel like he's separated himself as the number 2 quarterback in this cycle. He's right behind Bryce Underwood at number 3 overall. So a big jump for Keelan Russell, and he's earned it on the field.
All right. Let's talk about the next quarterback, Houston Longstreet. Big news on Sunday. Longstreet flips a longtime commitment from Texas A&M to the USC Trojans. Julian Lewis decommits. You guys can go find all that information on this channel. I talked about it in a video yesterday on the Inside Scoop. All right, let's talk a little Houston Longstreet, USC Trojans' newest quarterback commit. What makes him a 5-star?
Yeah, Josh, we talked about this for a while. Hassan Longstreet has the strongest arm in this cycle, which is that's saying a lot given some of these quarterbacks. He has a bazooka attached to his right arm, but he's really hit his stride as a senior. Had a slower start, was hurt to start the season, but has come along. He is a plus athlete in addition to the arm strength, has led his team to some big-time wins against top competition, just a competitor, kind of a really translatable skill set. And you just don't see a lot of quarterbacks at the high school level make the kinds of throws he makes with the velocity. He has the ability to touch the field, touch the breadth of the field at any point, or regardless of where he is or what position he's in. Just in terms of seeing pressure, and the ball just jumps out of his hand in a really, really tangible way. But he is just a great player, and one who I think, if you're a USC fan, you need to be really excited with this recruiting news here recently with him flipping to USC, especially as a local guy.
Yeah, absolutely. A huge flip. Lincoln Riley ends up getting his 5-star quarterback in Houston Longstreet. Now let's move on to Cal quarterback commit. For how long, we'll see. Yeah. But Cal quarterback Jerron Key Sagapulitelli. Now Oregon is after him, but Georgia just offered about 3 weeks ago, so this recruitment is heating up. What makes Sagapulitelli a 5-star quarterback?
I think Jerron Kiabe Sagapulitelli has a case as the most skilled passer in this cycle. When you look at the array of throws he can make, just with his arm strength. He has a pliable arm, can throw from different angles. Made a ton of tight window throws, throws with accuracy, touch, great timing with his receivers, and he's had a meteoric rise, Josh. I think when we think back on kind of when he came on the national scene, that was at the Elite 11 finals where he had a really good showing out there in California and just took his game to a complete other level as a senior. He's Hawaii's all-time leading passer, more passing yards than Tua Tagovailoa, Dylan Gabriel. I mean, he's going to go down as a historic quarterback in the state of Hawaii, and it's like the attention he's received, the late offers from Oregon, Georgia, like it's merited. When you turn on the film, it's super impressive, and we felt like he had done enough to earn a 5th star, which in this quarterback cycle was saying a lot.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit more about these quarterbacks. Now, we just talked about Jerron. He could flip. Houston Longstreet just flipped. Bryce Underwood is getting recruited by Michigan right now, the LSU commit. I mean, we're not taking a flip off the table yet. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. It seems like, Charles, half of these top quarterbacks are trying to be flipped.
Yeah.
Does that speak to this era of NIL recruiting, or is this top half of the quarterback class just that good?
I think it's a combination of both. But in my time of doing this, I think this is the deepest group of quarterbacks who have legitimate cases as five stars in terms of their NFL tools and upside that I've covered. There's probably we currently have 5-star quarterbacks. I think there's 7 to 8 who could legitimately be 5 stars. I think when you look outside the 5 we currently have, you also have Deuce Knight, the Auburn commit, and Kamario Taylor, the Georgia commit, the Mississippi State commit, who Georgia's going after. So it really. These guys are all top talents. They all bring different things to the table, and it's a really, really exciting group. So I think if you're looking for both a recruiting and ranking storyline, it's how this quarterback group shakes out. Are there going to be any more flips, and who's going to be the final 5 stars in this group? Because generally, we aren't going to probably have 8 5-star quarterbacks. So it's going to be kind of, us trying to figure out how this group shapes up. There's playoffs left, so a lot of these guys have significant football left to be played. Hopefully we'll get to see some of them in the All-Star games. We aren't really sure because a lot of these guys enroll early now to go through bowl practice. So it's going to be really exciting to kind of unravel this group and continue to work on it. But it is an exciting group of quarterbacks, and these guys are have high-end traits, and they look like NFL talents.
All right, guys, we got 8 new 5 stars here at On3. Here they are. Let me know who you think should be the next 5-star when the On3 rankings come out. We got room for a couple more. You guys let us know. Who do you like? Comment section below.